fell on the floor, and he suddenly changed into a little girl screaming, and it was I was calm in the dream, but I woke up very stressed and scared. Like, what the hell had happened?
Mm.
Uh,
Mm. So you dream about him regularly, did you say frequently?
yeah, I had multiple dreams about him.
And is there a common theme?
The common theme is that we all know in the dream that he's dead, but he doesn't.
Okay. So you didn't even have to think about that. That was really close to the surface, that one. Yeah. So of course, him not being dead would suggest that he's very alive in you guys, in you and your mother. And who else? Your sister, did you say?
My aunt,
Your aunt. So it's your mother's father or your father's father?
my mother, father.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay. So it's his two daughters, your mother and her sister.
Yeah, he has three daughters, my mom and two sisters.
But in your dream, only one of those sisters is present.
Yeah,
Yeah. And your mother. Yeah. And you, of course. So he's very alive in you. Hi,
I
Sylvia.
can't say
Audience.
hi.
Hi.
You cannot say what?
I I can't say that he's alive in me or something. I didn't feel close to him when he was alive.
Yet he
Uh,
comes to you for help. Before he turns into a helpless little girl.
I don't know. He wasn't asking for help in the other dreams. It's this one he was crying, and I don't know why.
So he was crying in a distressed manner. He was upset.
Yeah, yeah, he was like uh, breaking down somehow.
Hmm.
Um, maybe shocked or scared as well.
Hmm.
That was more obvious when he turned into a little girl screaming.
Hmm. And both in the dream and in real life now, is it so that you feel helpless about this?
No, I could say I feel scared.
Scared of what?
I don't know. I woke up scared, like
Yeah.
in a way that I haven't experienced uh, for too long. Uh, like I felt like I am this little girl screaming or scared.
Did you just say you were the little girl?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
the feeling of being scared, like I could feel what she's feeling.
Right, right. So do you think his upsetness, his being upset in the dream, is because he's scared? Is it that kind of upset?
Yeah, I think
Mm. So this might sound like a funny question, but just give me the first thing that comes to mind. Is it obvious to you that he in your dream is you?
Yeah, to some degree. I can assume that.
Mm. Mm. So would it also be right, or is this too big a jump to suggest that being scared is about being helpless?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Mm. I recently wrote something, and it was a bit of a weird one because one of the points I put was that we can't help what happens, but we are not helpless. Does that make sense to you?
Can you say it again?
We can't help what happens, but we're not helpless. It's a weird one. It's like it, it could easily sound contradictory, or it can make sense to you. Does it make sense to you?
I'm not sure. I remember once a friend was telling me I was feeling helpless about something, and she said I also feel helpless, but I don't mind it. I don't have to do anything. It's relaxing,
Hmm.
and it was a different perspective, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to say we're helpless invokes some kind of almost a morality story, doesn't it? About it's wrong to be helpless. To be helpless means to be a victim, whatever. Um, from one perspective, from the old world, from the old world of control, that becomes something that's wrong or bad to be helpless. But from my experience is helplessness is to be celebrated. It 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 shows me the inevitability of what already is. So it's like if I'm not even going to try and change what's already happened because it's already happened. So to describe that as helpless is a description, but it's not a very active one because of a very accurate one because of the social implications of being helpless. So if we're helpless in the form of a victim, it implies that we should be in control, which of course is a bit of a joke, isn't it? Do you think,
Yeah,
do you see that?
yeah, that makes sense. And it also seems related to feeling guilt or responsibility.
Yes, absolutely. So to feel helpless like a little girl shouts out that something bad will happen as a result of that. Do you think?
I don't like what I'm feeling right now doesn't seem to have uh doesn't seem to have some kind of form or a narrative. It feels like something that scared you, and your body is just still shaking because of it, and it's just this state of there's there's no stories, there's no about something
Mm.
shouldn't have changed, happened, or no, I there's because there isn't a story, it's just a dream I had, and I
Mm.
feel the effect of it.
Yeah, well, that may be the case. It may be it's not even worth diving into, but it is if it's a reoccurring theme. Now, the grandfather is a reoccurring theme, but is that sadness or the crying and the helplessness part of that always? Or is this the first time that's turned up?
No, that's the first time I think.
Okay, right. Yeah. All right. So be relaxed and just see what happens. It might or might not go anywhere. Chances are it doesn't need to go anywhere. The reoccurrence of dreaming about your grandfather suggests that there's something there, but who knows what. I mean, let's just be open for whatever might come up, whatever might suggest itself.
I don't know, maybe it was related to because before I went to sleep, I for some reason I was contemplating death
Mm.
or
Okay, yeah,
dying.
well, that's a clear link then, isn't it? Yeah. And who do you know that's died? Your grandfather. So when it's simple to say I was contemplating death, but what from what perspective? How what was the contemplation of it? Where were you coming from? Was it you contemplating your own death, your own
Yeah,
imminent death or eventual death, or just what was
my
death,
death.
or was it actually dying rather than death?
It was my dying, but it's like what it could actually mean, like what even dying or
It's
and I can't say it didn't feel conceptual. It felt
something a bit more, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good one. Yeah. Did you ever know that's how Ramana Maharshi woke up? He lay on the floor contemplating dying and death and woke up. Had a huge epiphany from it. And of course that's one of the things that the Buddhists have meditations about death and dying for the same reason. Memento mori. It's contemplate the value of this life by comparing it to dying. That's a simplistic notion of it, but yeah, it can be extremely revealing. It's interesting that you consider you would even think to consider your own death at your age. You're a young fella. Most young people don't think of death in real terms. Me, I'm an old man. I might have 15 or 20 years left at most, or maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Who knows whether I'll get run over when I go outside. But but you're young. You've got a lot of years ahead of you, eh? Theoretically, at least.
I can't know that.
Of course not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm.
It feels like um, whatever the substance of being alive, if if dying happens, it's like what will remain or what will um, I can't explain it. It's
Mm. Yeah. It stimulates for me the idea of what is it, this being alive? It can't be measured, can't be captured, put in a bottle. No surgeon can find life force, whatever that is. Nothing is, nothing seems to be missing physically when we die from when we're alive. Yet, yet it's the animation thing. And when we look at what is actual, there is only the action of experiencing. So being alive is the ability to experience, and being dead is not that. And yet we can't put experience in a bottle, can we? We can't measure it, we can't capture it, no surgeon can find it.
it's kind of devastating, the fact that the human experience is so fleeting, but there can be a lot of bonding and attachment to the life experience. It's so like cruel in a way. Uh, and But at the same time, like it's who would remember? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like when I'm in a dream and suddenly I'm back to my old village and thinking, why we are here? We need to move. That happens a lot. I completely forget about where I am right now. This life is completely erased from my memory.
Yes.
Like, who cares about this life but this character, seemingly? Like, if this
Yeah.
character is not here, nobody gives a shit about this life or what's happening.
Hmm. And the character in the dream, the experience in the dream, how is that different from the experience in waking life? It might have slightly different flavors, but essentially experience is experiencing, isn't it? And you are experiencing in a dream, and in that dream, it's everything is as real as what you're experiencing is in waking life. Is that true?
Yeah, it can be seen like that. If unless you know you're dreaming it, then it's a lucid dream.
Lucid dreaming's a different story, isn't it? I would add that. I would make that a third thing, a different one again. Yeah. But 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 see, what happens when we wake up from a dream is we immediately discount the dream. We say, "Oh, that was only a dream." We take away the value of it. We suck the meaning out of it. But we don't do that with real life, do we? In fact, we do the opposite. We give real life meaning that it doesn't deserve.
I think in the dream we also discount what seems to be real life. Uh, like when I dream I'm back to my old home, I discount, like even if I remember vaguely, like I moved out or something, I would discount that even happened. And even in waking life, when I moved in and when things like happened very fast, I thought like, what if all this was just a dream and I suddenly wake up in the old house and I didn't move? And I thought like, if that happened, I I wouldn't question anything. I would just go along with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I'm gonna
Yeah,
supposed to do? Like,
it's a
how can I
mind boggle.
prove?
Yeah, it's happened to me only once in my life, but I remember vividly that back when I was a child going to school, I don't even remember how old or which school I was going to, whether it was primary school or high school. But because I used to read all night, I used to read until really late in the night. My mother always made me put the light out, but I had a torch and I would read by torchlight. And I read a book every day. I just read voraciously. That was my escape. And so I usually didn't get to sleep until really late, maybe 1 or 2 a.m. I'd get to sleep. And so it was always hard for me to wake up. So in the morning, waking up, my mother would yell at me to get out of bed and come and get breakfast to go to school. And this morning she came in and she did the absolutely normal, usual thing of telling me to get up, come on, Vincent, get up, come and get your breakfast, get ready for school. And I dragged myself out of bed and I got dressed and oh, it was so hard, and I was really tired. And I got to the doorway of my bedroom and I woke up. I go, I'm going to have to go through it all again now, right? It was so realistic. It was so real life that when I woke up, I also had the realization, how do I know this is not dreaming again? You only know you've been dreaming if you wake up. And so forever after that, I thought, this could be a dream I'm going to wake up out of one day. And when I did wake up, I recognized the qualities of a dream in the old life, but it wasn't the same as that waking up from a sleeping dream. But this is no different to a dream, except we don't have a lot of the weird things that happen in a dream. The distortion of what we know of as reality happens in a dream easily, but not here. I mean, I could fly in my dreams. I could do this and fly up into the air, but I could only get up as high as the electricity poles were. I couldn't get any higher than that, but I could do that. Never been able to do it in real life, though.
Have you tried?
Well, maybe I haven't. That's right. I go, hey, I wouldn't try because I'm not dreaming anymore. Yeah, maybe I can if I do. Yeah, who knows? Interesting, yeah. So, you're right. I think this real life certainly has a whole lot of qualities that suggest it could well be just a dream. But why do we scare ourselves in a dream? Why do we experience unpleasant things in a dream? If we knew we were dreaming, we could just make it all really nice, couldn't we? But we don't.
I suppose it has a function. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? We can assume it does, just as we assume that there's a lot of benefits from sleeping, but we don't know of them. Where biology will tell us, yes, yes, your brain shrinks and cleans out and your body heals at a faster rate when you're asleep and so on. Presumably dreaming plays some part in that, but it's all theory, who knows? Yeah. But it's really interesting that in a dream, you have an experience of what we would consider a waking life. You're dreaming about waking life. Yeah. That would suggest you could be quite close to lucid dreaming.
I do lucid dream sometimes, and
Okay.
I was able to fly a few times.
Yeah. Good.
But it was hard at first. I had to learn it somehow.
Yeah. I tried and tried and tried to lucid dream. I was never successful, or at least not that I remember anyway. Yeah. How about you, Sylvia? Do you ever have lucid dreams?
No, not that I can remember. I tried it in the past, but no, didn't work for me.
Yeah, it sounded pretty good to be able to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you ever contemplate death and dying?
Hmm. I don't think so. Maybe I did some kind of meditations on dying, imagining, I'm dying and stuff, but not on a regular basis. Um, no, say no. Hmm. It's interesting because when I was listening to you talking, I thought that, well, it doesn't feel threatening to do it, but at the same time, I don't do it. So
Mm.
maybe there's a reason why. Um, yeah, I remember Pranila also mentioned that it's a useful one. Uh, yeah, but for some reason, I haven't felt drawn to this kind of
Yep. Okay.
meditation. Yeah.
No part of you suggests that you're avoiding it. It's just that you haven't been
Hmm.
attracted to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay.
Yeah. yeah, but it made me think in the past, if it is avoiding, am I just not being able to face it right now? Because when you ask me about my death, I'm like, yeah, it feels fine. You know,
Mm.
it's not like I would like it to happen, obviously, but it doesn't cause any fear when I think about it. But then, yeah, maybe there's a reason why I don't do it, this kind of meditation, but maybe, it's just,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And we don't
yeah,
have to find answers to that,
yeah.
whether we do or not. Yeah. Yeah. I similarly feel no fear about the idea of dying,
Mhm.
but who's to say what it'll be like when it is actually happening?
Mm.
We don't
Yeah.
know, do we? No idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
So tell me, how's your experience been for the past couple of days? I'm kind of imagining the newness of this for you.
Mm. Yeah, it feels pretty fresh still. So what I'm noticing is there's more of yeah, noticing of identification in situations, like normal situations that happen every day. Yeah, and I would say that not much has changed, but at the same time, I'm here with you today. And a few days ago, if you asked me, would I join a group like that? I would say no, because for this organism, that's always been one of the biggest triggers. Um, Being in a group of people I don't know, talking in front of a group of people in English on top of that. So, and even today, I could feel a lot, even right now, happening in this body, a lot of sensations that would be labeled as fear. And there's a lot of thoughts how bad it will go and how much shame I would feel.
Oh, well,
Yeah. And I could see all those activities that were supposed to keep me away from feeling it. Like a few minutes before this meeting started, I was like, yeah, maybe I'll read a book for a few minutes. Maybe I'll just watch something so that I don't have to stay with what's happening inside.
oh, that's
Um,
fantastic. Absolutely brilliant that you see that stuff happening. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of avoidance and it's still happening. But yeah, I can see it more clearly now. And I guess that's the change that there's more courage to be with it anyway, even
Mm.
though my thoughts tell me that, I would experience this and that, and that will be so difficult, and we can't um, control it at all. And it was even funny, this morning when I was thinking about this meeting. Um, Usual thing for my brain would be like come up with those things that I may be asked about. So what will we say? Just preparing for conversations. And there was another thought saying like, yeah, we don't have to prepare now. We can relax. But that would change nothing. All those thoughts would keep coming
Yeah,
back. And
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, yeah, that's how
yeah,
much control I have.
yeah. So there's a really
Yeah,
interesting way of looking at that that's valuable for you.
yeah.
And that is this is really interesting because I was before this meeting I was playing with an AI trying to get it to draw me an image that represented somebody moving into the new world but dragging behind them the old world. And here you are talking about exactly that kind of thing, you know. So
Mhm.
all those old ways of distracting from your fear, what's going on, even the idea of calling this courage is an old world way of doing
Mhm.
it. It's obvious to you, I imagine it is obvious to you, that the moment you consider it, you can see it's just happening.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but we will have old world stuff trying to come back all the time because of habit, because
Mhm.
that's what we know, it's familiar. And even if it's familiar in an uncomfortable way, there's some comfort there's some pleasantness in the familiarity of it.
Mhm.
And you can also expect that when you start to leave the old stuff behind, that sometimes there will be grief. You will miss that familiarity until the new way establishes itself and becomes familiar. There might be a sense of loss involved with letting go of a lot of that old stuff because it's a sudden thing. And really, in relative terms, you've got all of those years behind you, and now in a matter of a few weeks, you're in a new world, a totally new, different way of looking at things. Wow, that's a pretty sharp change, isn't it? So,
Mhm.
you know, of course it can be a little scary and there can be that
Mhm.
grief about leaving behind stuff, but it will very, very quickly establish itself as a normal simply because it's so refreshing. It's so much minus all of that suffering that used to hang around with the old way of doing things.
Mhm.
Yeah. Just to put it into context for you guys, Sylvia went through the gate at Liberation Unleashed just a few days ago. Yeah. Yeah, so it's a brand new world. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's
It
it's
is. Yeah.
it's appropriate it's appropriate not to see that old stuff as wrong or bad or the enemy or needing to be
Mhm.
fixed or needing to be rejected or anything like that. That old stuff, it just turns up. And usually when it turns up, if we're able to see it appropriately, we'll recognize that it brings with it a gift. Uh, and as you said, you used the word identification. You saw the ways you were identifying with the old idea of an actual self being there. So when those old ideas turn up, the gift that they bring is the opportunity to just see that one in a little bit more depth, you know, a little bit more subtlety about where it is we're hanging on to. So always go to the body, what you're feeling when that happens, because that's the portal into the connection with that old world
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah. It's the relationship to it that's the important thing. That in itself is nothing. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the relationship to it that's the important thing. Identification is about relationship to what we imagine to be true. And the old way was we were constantly making something out of nothing with our mind.
can I ask you a question about that, Vince?
Yes, of course, Jed. Yeah.
Uh, so I think that's my so just being with stuff as it arises in the body, kind of reminding myself that it's just all part of life. It may be stuff that's just coming up to be processed and felt and whatever. Um, versus kind of seeing. I mean, I can sometimes just doing that, some understanding may arise. A lot of the time it doesn't, and and I'm and I'm wondering if it's useful to do stuff like ask myself, "Oh, what am I believing now?" or some kind of inquiry basically into it, which then I don't know, maybe takes me into the mind and some stories. And what would you say about the balance or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, what comes to mind is that any kind of effort, any kind of doing that you put into it is taking you away from recognizing what it is you want to you is valuable for you to see. Right? So the idea of I need to do something to make the best out of this
Hmm.
rests on a foundation of the existence of a self. Who can do that? Who can put the effort in? Who can make the right decision to do that?
So it seems like I can make an effort to try and just be with it.
Yes,
That can
yes,
feel
you can. Yeah,
effortful, and that's a nice guidance actually to remember that just trying to make anything of it in itself is misguided.
yeah. But here's another reality to it, and that is that I don't know quite how to put it. In the back of your mind, there's a knowing that looking in that particular direction is maladaptive, and looking in that particular direction is adaptive. Uh, it's more likely to be productive. So, but that's in the back of your mind. So once again, it just like I mentioned to Sylvia, it's the relationship to that stuff that's important. Right? So you can say, well, I shouldn't make an effort. You can, however you want to put that. Vince said I shouldn't make an effort. And then you can go, but I shouldn't say I shouldn't make an effort. Right? And then you're off down this wrong track, aren't you? You've got opinion after opinion, judgment after judgment going about where to go in that direction. What happens by the time you become aware of it has already happened.
Hmm.
Your memory always lags. Your awareness, which is of a memory, always lags what happens.
Mhm.
So there's absolutely zero point in wanting anything to be different when you recognize what's happened. So can you can you get yourself to a perspective that says it just is? Or do you keep getting buffeted by that's good or not good? That's right or not right? Right. Thing is, if it happens, it happens.
Right.
Right? So you can
So we don't
say,
even want to hold an intention of I'm on a journey of deconstructing the self or
well,
deconstructing my
that's what I
beliefs or something.
say. The subtle point that I mentioned before, that's hard. It's because it is subtle, is that that stuff resides in the back of your mind anyway,
Okay, got
right?
you. So we
So
don't
it's
have to try
it's
to
not
help move it.
possible to not have some kind of identification. But do you identify with a self that's in control and runs the show, or really you're a receiver for what life presents you.
Mm.
They're all concepts, but they're just a way of looking at it. Uh, so we started off, well, Ramiz is gone now, but we started talking about being helpless. You know, is if we can't help something, does that mean we're helpless? Well, we can't help what thoughts turn up, but we don't have to helplessly obey them,
Mm.
because this bit in the back of your mind says, "Oh, it's just a thought," but it's in the back of your mind. It's not taking prominence. The prominence is if it can be, the prominence is looking at, I wonder what triggered that thought. Where did it come from? Why did that thought arise? Why not thoughts of unicorns and pink elephants? That particular thought turned up because circumstances were right for it to turn up. Wonder what they were. What happened? That's where the realization comes in about seeing what's actual.
Okay.
So it's a tricky one, because it's like you have to surrender to what is before what is will change.
Mm.
It's a paradox. It's an interesting paradox, because in the old world we're taught that change will only happen when we make it happen.
Mm.
Well, it's a load of bullshit. It's not like that at all. Life will do what life does all the time. Of course, that's only a concept too. You know, but it's a way of putting it that makes sense. You know what? So I can say I made the decision to come here and start this meeting, but that's just a story to describe what actually happened. What actually happened was the meeting started and I'm here, and it appears that I made a decision, but that decision was made before I became aware of it.
Mm.
This brain saw what time it was, saw what was in the calendar, checked to see if there was enough battery in the laptop, right? Didn't even think about whether the internet was working okay. All sorts of things, a million other circumstances were involved in this happening that I wasn't even aware of.
Mhm. Can I get into that a bit with you, Vince?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
The so I've still got an idea that yes, the vast majority of stuff is just happening, but I have a small, tiny bit of choice and control. You know, like no, I can't choose all my thoughts. The vast majority come in, but now I could decide to think about an elephant. Do you know what I mean? Or now I
Well,
could.
here's where you get into that kind of thing. You know, this is a good one. You know, it's really valuable that you bring this up. When you said I could choose to think about an elephant, weren't you already thinking about an elephant to say that?
I don't think I was. No, I think I was. No, it was that, but it was the first thing that just popped into my head, I
That's
suppose.
exactly it. It popped into your head. And then you said, I could choose to think about that. But you didn't choose to think about a rhinoceros or an emu or anything else, did you?
Yeah.
You chose to think about an elephant, because an elephant was already there in your head, and
Well, the
you
way I
became
experienced
you
it,
became aware of it.
I
Your
don't think I
brain
was aware.
notified you what it was thinking of.
Okay. In
And
my
of
mind, the
course,
way I experienced it was I kind of knew I wanted to ask you this question at some point, Um, and so I asked the question, and I don't think had any sense of an elephant. It just kind of spontaneously came out, that
Mm.
question. I knew I was going to ask you about, say something about, can I just choose a thing to think about? Elephant just popped into that
Yeah,
sentence.
yeah. You could say, here's my finger still. I'm going to choose to move it. Did I choose to move it? The concept of moving my finger and still was there well before I did the movement.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because the whole thing. So there is this recognition here that there's a class of thoughts, a whole lot of thoughts that happen that are really, really subtle thoughts, and they're speedy. They do not know time, right? A thought can appear in an instant. It can't be measured how quickly a thought can turn up, and it can be gone again in that same instant. So you can have a thought, and that thought can contain so much information that if you were to narrate it, it would take you half an hour. Yet the thought itself came and went in 1/10 of a millisecond. That's how thought is. It's like a little mini explosion that happens as a result of the conditions that your brain is working, you know. So although we're using the concept of a brain and the concept of biology or neurobiology or whatever the science is that tells us about these things, our experience is of a memory of a thought.
Mm.
And we can often see, if we look at that closely, that that thought had a whole lot of bits and pieces hanging off it that we weren't conscious of, but they were actually there.
Mhm.
So the idea of saying, I'm going to think of an elephant, right? There is the description of that you're going to think. And what does that? Was it a visual image of an elephant? Or was it a textural image? Or was it even an audible image? Maybe you heard an elephant, right? Did that elephant have color? What kind of details were there? Was it just an impression of an elephant? Or could you see the creases in its skin? Did it have tusks? Was it an African or an Asian elephant? See, all of that's involved in it, but it was just this vague impression of an
Mm.
elephant. Yeah. So again, science is still totally stonkered when it comes to working out what a thought is.
Mhm.
Nothing can be measured, nothing can be captured, nothing can be whatever. We can just describe our experience and we call it thought, but that's like saying, well, that's a car. And if I say to you, well, is it a BMW or a Mercedes or what kind of car was it? You go, oh, I don't know, it was just a car. What color was it? Oh, I don't know, it was a dark color. Uh, did it have four wheels? Oh, I don't know, I presume it did.
Mhm.
So we just get these really vague things and we go, well, that's a thought.
Mhm.
But thoughts can turn up. I I recognise, and this is something that you may yet to experience, but I recognise that I have all these little movies that run, right? When Celia had a sip of water a moment ago, I saw a little movie of me picking up my coffee cup and having a drink. Now I didn't do it, but I saw the movie of me doing it. That triggered that little movie, and I saw it happen and just ignored it, discounted it. It was not relevant. But there was But it happened in, I can't click my fingers, but it happened in that amount of time.
Yeah.
And it involved tasting, it involved experiencing moisture, wetness,
Hmm.
it involved the feeling in my fingers of picking the cup up. All of that stuff was there, but none of it was big enough to be the thing. It was just part of that little movie of thought. See, and I wonder if Scott realised that he just got triggered to have a drink.
Hmm.
Who knows? That's right, exactly. Yeah. We make assumptions about things when the reality is it's unknown. We just cannot even pull these things apart enough to see the different parts of them.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
yeah. But when we look at it, so it's not about having control. It's about why we feel the need for control. What is our relationship?
Hmm.
So if we don't have control, does that mean we're out of control? It shouldn't, but that's the fear of a lot of people when they think they've actually got control and that this process is going to take that off them. Well, that's not the way it is, of course. This is about realizing that we never actually ever had control. We just presumed we did because society has taught us all along that if we try harder, we can achieve. So therefore, we've got control. But the reality is it was never there. It was always a delusion that we actually had it. So when it becomes an illusion, wow, all of a sudden, this idea of try harder to be better is just ridiculous. And yes, that's what they told me all the way through school. Every report card said, if Vince would try harder, he would do better. Every single, no, if Vincent would try harder, he would do better. Every report card said that when I went through school.
So in that situation, I guess that what the teacher says then becomes an influence on your behavior.
Mm,
So it could be a useful thing for them to say, but it still doesn't give you any control. Would that be true?
that's true. That just embeds the delusion a bit more. And
But it
and that
might have an
delusion,
influence on,
yeah. And
it might
if it,
make you work harder. It might,
yeah, well, that's the whole point of it, isn't it? They want to motivate you.
whether you do or not, of course, you don't have any control over.
Yeah. Now,
But
if you really like the teacher, you're more likely to have an effect than if you don't like them.
yeah,
Or there's a whole lot of things. If you can identify with, it's going to have a different effect.
yeah,
If there's something going on there. But you can see how life is just a compounding of all of those kind of delusions to shape us and push us in a certain way. And that's why we call this liberation, because we get liberated from the uh, compulsion to obey what we now recognize is just a concept. There's nothing real in it. There's nothing substantial behind it. That doesn't
but
mean
yet
we
we
won't
still,
still do the right thing. It doesn't mean we won't still feel like we're trying to do something because it's appropriate. But we recognize that there's just a million conditions involved in this.
yeah. So we act like we kind of, the thing to do is to try, kind of act like we have control, knowing that we don't.
Yeah. And I would have to say it's appropriate to behave as if we're a person and we have
Yeah,
control and so on a lot of the time. But we recognize that it's not right to say it's an act because frequently to behave as if is appropriate. It is the right thing to do under those circumstances. But the reality is that we're doing it for a different reason. We're not doing it because society compels us to do it. We're doing it because it's appropriate. So, like before this meeting, I was dressed in shorts with bare feet and a t-shirt. Now I'm going out for tea with my wife, and we're going to the local club and out in public. So I got dressed. I put a shirt on, and I put a jumper on, and I put long pants and shoes on. I didn't do that because I was compelled to. I did it simply because it was appropriate.
Yeah.
Same outcome, but see,
Mhm.
a lot that when we're compelled, it it can easily promote a whole lot of suffering.
Mhm. Right.
So if you've got control, you've got to be a certain way, and if you're not that way, you're a failure. If you're a failure, you're going to feel shameful and guilty and all of those things.
Mhm.
And interestingly, those are the things that society uses to motivate us.
Right.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's a circular
Right.
craziness. And we take those things and we embed them in ourselves, not on purpose, but just conditions do that, and we get them there. So the whole idea of will I say something stupid? That's pretty stupid in itself. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and it's not because I'm going to say it, it's because that's what comes out.
Yeah. Vince, you mentioned shame there, and another thing I've been kind of wondering about is I heard you speak about kind of deep layers of conditioning that we have from way back. That when we start to get less triggered, maybe this is what maybe I don't know if you said this, but what I think I'm experiencing is when the triggering's not happening and there's more kind of steadiness and space or something, then these deeper layers of just kind of general shame or general sadness without any obvious cause just become apparent.
Mm,
Would you say is that
yeah, for
what you're
sure.
saying? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because that so when you if we come at it from a slightly different angle, instead of saying there's there's not a self there running the show, if we come at it from the apparent existence of a self, we can say it's easy to see that we've been conditioned right from the beginning. What is the first thing we say to a baby? We say its name, you know, and we tell it you're Fred, and when it says Fred, we go, oh, good boy, you said Fred. Or I'm mum. When you say, oh, he said mum, oh, beautiful, beautiful, we make a big deal of it. So what we do is we teach labels. And then on top of that, we get more and more sophisticated. We start teaching good behavior and bad behavior. And this is a tricky one. Every child, I don't know that there would ever be an exemption from this. Every single child feels like they're not living up to what their parents tell them they should be living up to.
hmm, yeah,
And that gets really, really hammered home big time, not just
yeah,
by the parents, but by society, by everybody. Think about this.
absolutely.
When you go to kindergarten and you listen to other kids, you think, oh, it's other kids that are influencing you. But what are those other kids doing? They're reflecting what their parents have done to them.
Yeah.
So it gets passed on and on and on. And because none of us can live up to that ideal of being the perfect child, we're all learn what shame is.
Yeah.
We learn what guilt is, and for some of us, it becomes a really big thing,
Yeah.
especially if we've got critical parents. I mean, my father told me I was lazy all my life. I can even see him going, "You're lazy," almost spitting it as he said it, how lazy I was, because I wouldn't do I wasn't willing doing what he wanted me to do.
Right. Bloody hell. Yeah, they're always trying to correct our behaviour, aren't they, by using shame and disapproval, basically.
Yeah, yeah, they're the motivational forces. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're well intentioned. They think they're coming from the right place.
Yeah.
It's just totally fucked, isn't it?
Yeah, and it has a big impact. It has leaves
Ab-
these kind of
Absolutely.
layers. Yeah.
And you can't believe that here we are as an adult still responding to this child's perspective on life because it gets buried in us and it gets isolated, and then we spend our life avoiding it. Right? This idea of we distract from discomfort is huge. It's a really big thing. And we do it so quickly and so automatically that we don't even realize we're doing it. And part of that, and part of the thing that becomes really obvious is we blame, that's a big word, blame things outside of us for what we're feeling, which is totally crazy because really all those things did was stimulate what was already in us.
Yeah. But then, of course, there are some. I guess there's like a place for boundaries as well. Like some people do some things that harm us in some way, whether it's physically or mentally or emotionally, and we can say no. And even though maybe a lot of the feeling we're having is due to what we're already carrying, it doesn't mean we have to take it. I suppose
Yeah, yeah. Boundaries are a really, really tricky one. I mean, Penella talks about boundaries in a really interesting way, and she's saying if you don't have firm boundaries, then you won't respect other people's boundaries,
Hmm.
and that can be the case for sure. But I mean, rather than theorize about it, if I look in my experience, I feel like I don't have any boundaries. I don't mind what people say. I don't mind what people do until they do, and then I discover that I have got boundaries. But it feels like I don't have.
Mhm.
But it also feels like I do respect other people's boundaries. Now, not that I know what their boundaries are, but I do respect a cultural or social idea of boundaries. And so I know that if I'm going to go up really close and get into somebody's personal space and put my face an inch away from theirs, that somebody's going to feel pretty uncomfortable. So I don't do it. It's not because I can't do it. It's not because I'm told not to do it. It's that I don't want them to feel uncomfortable.
Sure.
Maybe. I say maybe because I don't know.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
that appropriateness again. It's a cultural norm that you just naturally respond to. Maybe.
it's the nature of the human organism, I think, to want to belong, to want to connect, to be cooperative, to be empathic, all of that stuff. Yeah. So I don't see any of this stuff that we do as spiritual. It's human. It's very
Nice,
much just becoming an unencumbered human being, a human being.
nice.
Yeah. But, like I'm an old man, I might have another 15 or 20 years of life left in me. Am I going to get to my deathbed and have cleared up every bit of shadow work that's in there, every bit of stuff? Probably not. It wouldn't surprise me. I still find things these days. They still pop up. Identification pops up. I find it rather interesting when it does. I think, wow, I didn't realize that was still there, but there it is. Yeah. So I can imagine that this is a lifelong journey, and I may never get to the end of it, even right towards when I'm on my deathbed.
Yeah,
I'll be going, oh well, I wonder what I missed. What's still there? Who knows? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But what I can say is, and I rather imagine it's not quite that way for you yet, but you're very much on the road, is that life is fucking beautiful. It is really, really great. Yeah. It's so fulfilling and beautiful and whatever and beautiful and whatever and beautiful. It is just great. Yeah.
It's good to hear you say that.
Yeah. Well, it's what I experience right now. I mean, how lucky am I to be able to talk to you about this stuff? Isn't that amazing? I mean,
Hmm.
I just feel, my heart just wants to, oh, burst out with appreciation for the fact that we can be having this conversation. Yeah.
Lovely. Vince, I also wanted to ask you, it's a bit of a struggle for me to get to the meetings because of timings sometimes. This one is quite good. I've heard you mention Penella. Is this somebody who also runs meetings? And
Yep. Um, she does a lot of videos online.
okay,
She has the Awakening curriculum is Penella. If you go to that, they do retreats sometimes, and they do have what they call Q&As, question and answer situations. So I'd say go to the Awakening curriculum on
okay,
YouTube, and you'll find. I, I don't know if they've got a website, but I think a lot of that stuff happens on YouTube. So just get on the, yeah, just put go to a search engine for the Awakening curriculum, and you'll see. Yeah.
She's got a
Oh,
website, same name.
oh, great, great. Yeah.
thanks.
Good to see you, Sylvia.
Bye, Sylvia.
Really good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's really good. Now, what, I mean, I would say she's been a mentor for me, so I really appreciate where she's coming from, and I really like what she does. But I'll say this, her videos are chock full of stuff. There is so much stuff in them and there are so many videos because she's been doing it for a while and she's very prolific with what she does that I say go really slowly, right? Start off with the first feta stuff in her thing, and even watch that same first video many times until you feel really comfortable with it before you move on to the second video, and go right all the way through like that, and that'll take you a long time because she's got a lot of videos there to do that. But she'll take you to a depth that you won't mostly get to with most people. It is really good in that way. So go slowly. And it's very, very definitely a case of look for what you experience. It's so easy with videos to get sucked into the idea of what you think about it, right? Or that you're getting high on watching it, right? Which is a bit more than thinking, but it's still not getting to where it's meant to get, which is in your experiencing.
Okay.
Yeah. She's really good, really empathic, really, really excellent, excellent lady. Yeah. Her and Todd, her husband, is also very good. Yeah.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about Penella, Scott? You know the website, so you know something of her.
Yeah. Her and Todd, I think they're awesome. Like the the way they bring in humanness into it. You know what I mean? Like it's even though they're non-dual based, they realize that we're all human and that sometimes the non-dual view is kind of, I don't know, black and white, or I mean, I know it doesn't really make sense, but it's just so stark, and they allow you to be human, and they give you all kinds of, like, Todd is a master at inquiry. His YouTube channel is Unfettered Mindfulness. He's really good at inquiry. Anyway, I really enjoy listening to all their stuff, partly because it just allows you to be human. You know, when I'm in, like, not let's I'm just going to say the non-dual world, in general, it just seems like my mind is constantly trying to visualize what is being talked about, trying to grab onto something that just isn't there, and it makes me feel, like I'm not able to do it. It makes me feel less than, or helps reinforce that feeling that's already there, I guess. Anyway, definitely worth looking into for sure. I'm in the beginning when I was like biting on to everything. I mean, I guess I still do it to some degree. I'm sure I do, but the idea of the fetters being like 1 through 10, and they talk about breaking fetters and all that stuff. Like like at this point, for whatever reason, I just look at it like a framework where each number is just a different angle looking at the same thing. So I kind of went through them. Um, I went against what people say. I kind of ended up slowly, but I went through them, and I went all the way through, even though, like, I don't think there's even such a thing as breaking a fetter. Like, I just don't think that's even a thing, really. I just think it's what people, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's a thing. And so I kind of went through them, and each time I went through fetters, which I don't even know if I'm past one, if that's a thing, but uh, it, I felt, for me, that it seemed advantageous to have these other viewpoints, like from a different angle. And now I'm at the point now where I'm going to go back and just kind of go through the videos again slowly whenever I feel like it. Basically that's how I view it. Like that's where I am right now. I haven't looked at the first video again. I'm going, but I think my body's probably going to do it here soon. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
find out.
okay. Yeah, just on that point, Todd and Penella idea of the fetters, I like it. It's like mine. Okay, but there are there are other people. So there was a bloke called Kevin Shanlek. He actually um, was a pioneer in bringing the fetters into reality in the West, so to speak. Okay, and he actually worked through and described these fetters, and so what we've got is a framework of, as Scott said, ways of looking at certain things. And so the idea is, for example, the first fetter is that of recognizing that there's no self running the show. There's no actual self in there, no little man in your head pulling levers and whatever, you know. Um, and the second fetter is about doubt, and the third fetter is about rites and rituals, and they go through all of these things right up to the 10th fetter, and it's a framework. Well, that's a trap. People really love that idea of being able to measure where they're up to. Pernilla doesn't do that. She'll say things like, um, oh, I don't know, this is not necessarily accurate, but she'll say something like, uh, the second fetter is linked up with the eighth fetter, and so she will see that when you're working through one, you're having an effect on the other. When you're working through the top numbers, and those numbers also give you the idea of advancement. Well, that's bullshit too. They're just ways of looking at things, different perspectives on identification is what each of them are. Um, and so Pernilla sees them very much in a spiral kind of effect, where you go round the circle and you keep going up as you work your way through it. Whereas some people are really rigid about, you've got to break fetter one before you can break fetter two, and you've got to break fetter two before you can break fetter three. That's not the way I see it either. So that's one of the reasons I really like Pernilla. But so be really careful not to get sucked into the structure and the form of the fetters per se. I mean, you won't with Pernilla in particular, but there is that tendency to do that. So be very careful about it wanting to suck you in and do that. Yeah. But she just uses it, works her way through. So I think she's got probably about 4 videos on Feta 1. You know, and then Feta 2 might only have 1 or 2 videos, and so on. Different, and you get up to Fetas 4 and 5 to desire and ill will, or desire and aversion, and she's got a few videos again. So it gets it's, they can be, so Fetters 4 and 5, desire and ill will. A lot of people get stuck on them, because that's where we get triggered most. I want is Fetter 4. I don't want is Fetter 5. And we can think, oh well, I don't have desires anymore, until one shows up. And we've got a lot of those built into us. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. My most recent one was, my wants have enough power to get me what I want. If I want it hard enough, I can get it. And one of the things I want is for the world to be the way I think it should be. Yeah, that was a good one.
It's a bad one.
When I was listening to when you were speaking about the free will, I had the question that, does a flower has a free will? Does the animal has free will? Like, why the question makes sense when we apply it to humans somehow? Like,
Yeah,
something is implied here. Like, who does have the free will, and the free will to what? Like, free from what?
yeah, 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 it's a good one. Yeah. Why is it so important for people to believe they have free will? That's a very pointed question. People will defend their idea of having free will to the point of killing somebody. It's such a big deal. and yet it's really obvious that they don't have free will. But free will doesn't, not, lack of not having free will does not mean determinism. So this is a bit of a tricky one, because people think if they haven't got free will, they're being controlled by some outside force. Well, that's just bullshit. Conditions are what the brain uses to decide. So decisions do happen, but by the brain, based on conditions. And those conditions are what's perceived outside of us and what our history tells us is appropriate. And put all those things together, and there's actually an infinite amount of conditions involved in any decision. But every one of those, and this is a tricky one, every one of those conditions has its own conditions that it rests on. And they're always all in constant change, constant movement. So to say I've got free will means I'm consciously aware of every one of those conditions all the time, which is just impossible. It's a joke. So we've got about as much free will as that flower that Ramez mentioned. We don't choose the colour we're going to display. We don't choose the aroma we're going to give off. That all just happens because of conditions.
Yeah.
And the flower that's got certain elements in the ground will be blue, and the same flower with different elements will be a different colour. We can change the colour of certain flowers by just adding potassium or something like that to the soil, and all of a sudden it comes out a different colour.
Plants do respond to their environment, don't they? They like turn towards the sun, or if there's a toxin come in,
Absolutely,
they'll
yes.
respond to it. And just as, I guess what you're saying is just as we do, but we think the little bit of narrative, we think that's the important bit that's choosing, but it's all everything.
Yep, perfect. Yeah, exactly. That's where the delusion comes. Well, when it's not a delusion because we recognise it, it still happens, but it's now an illusion, not a delusion. Yeah. And don't you get a feeling of relaxation, a feeling of letting go when you realise that I don't have to row the boat anymore. The current will carry me.
Yeah, right.
Also, the discussion of free will, I feel like there is some emotions, like it doesn't arise all the time, like in a certain circumstances or certain, um, like if I heard a bird and I just looked at it, the question if did I choose to look at the bird doesn't make any sense because there is nothing I need to prove or disprove about the situation. There is no narrative. And once there is something I want to prove about myself or disprove something about identity, then the question matters somehow. When there is some doubt about, am I choosing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing?
Hmm.
It's not really about whether there is a choice uh, was made. It doesn't matter really uh, whether there was control or not, but like why the question even matters if in the first place,
Absolutely.
like why it's arising.
Yep.
Mm.
So you can take a step back and see it from a bigger perspective, and it becomes not a case of whether or not you've got free will, but why do we even consider it? Yeah.
Think we consider it because it's like one of the main things that people like, the fact that the idea that I'm a self and I can do things and I can put money in my bank account and I can do this and that. It's one of the main things that kind of like locks us into being a human, like, or not a human, but being a self. Like,
Yeah,
it's like the
yeah,
illusion of control is almost, to me, is almost as important as the illusion of being a self. Like, it's almost the same thing, just the idea of being a self kind of like creates a base from which you can, imagine that you can control. It's like, seems like that's the base of it all. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And from that angle, you can easily see how it's a short-term fix to feel good. It's all
Right,
about
right. That's true.
how do I feel? Yeah. And then you can see somebody like Trump who lives in that space and is constantly looking for reinforcement about how he's okay, constantly telling himself, getting other people to tell him that he's okay, that he's a good person, or that he's clever or smart or whatever he wants to hear. But it's very fragile, isn't it? And that's where the suffering comes in. So the self, another way to look at the self is it's a masturbating instrument. The whole thing is how to feel good in the short term. And that's really what life is about when we're lost in this delusion of a self. It's constantly working to feel good, to
To
not
kind of
feel
find,
bad and to feel good. And so you've got to ask yourself, why does the majority of the population love alcohol or other versions of drugs? Exactly the same reason. They just want to feel good.
I think it's a more valuable question to ask when this a question of do I have free will or do I have a choice is to ask, is there a condition I'm putting on myself in what's happening?
Say
Like an
more.
Do I
expectation.
do I put on myself expectations or conditions that things should be in a certain way,
Oh,
or
yes. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
because if there is no condition to what's is being expressed or is happening, the question doesn't arise. Like,
Hmm.
I'm going to get going, fellas. Thanks very
All right.
much.
Thank you, Jed.
Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye, Scott. Bye, Ramis.
bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah,
Yeah, so
Pinella talks about. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, you go.
I was just going to say, like, Pernella talks about the expectations. I think that's what Ramas was talking about, like having an expectation of what the present moment should be, and like it amazes me that even though it's absolutely, like, it's so easy to see that yes, whatever the present moment is, that's exactly as it should be. It's still like the habit is to think that it could be different. It's difficult. It seems like it's persistent and it's hard to
Hmm. And
drop.
if you look at the flavour of what it should be, it always should be in a way that makes us feel good.
Right.
In the moment we're not feeling good, it should not be this way. So that's part of the outward looking, the blame thing again. It's not something in me, it's something out there.
when I look at Pernella's verbal indicators and her emotional indicators, like the explaining, complaining, and the fear, anger, guilt, and shame. When I kind of like step back and look at that, I see it all through my my experience, and it kind of humbling, and also sometimes a little bit demoralizing.
Oh, really? Yeah. Still a bit of judgment there then, eh?
Yeah.
So a possible good thing to look at. I say good thing. Every time I open my mouth, I have funnies about what I say. But anyway, a possible good thing to look at is we're not trying to achieve something in the future. We're trying to uncover something that's there now. So this, if you want to go as far as to say there's an ultimate state of satisfaction or contentment or peace, however you want to describe it, if there's such a thing as an ultimate state, it's not something to be achieved in the future by working towards, but rather something to be uncovered now, that it already exists now, and it's just covered up by our responses to conditioning. And when we can undo those, it's there. It's obvious. It displays itself in all its glory. That wonderful, beautiful, full emptiness of peace and satisfaction and contentment, equanimity. So it changes our perspective, because what we're looking for is what's here now, not something in the future, not something to be achieved.
Yeah. There's something about the black and white thinking, and it I think it's like the desire to grab onto something, I think is what it is. But so I look at those things, and there is a part in there that says, until there is no guilt, anger, shame, or fear, and there is no explaining, complaining, until that does not exist in my experience, there's insufficiency. Like more,
Okay, yeah, I get
needs
what
to
you're
be
saying.
pulled
Yes.
in. Like, yeah.
So again, just a slight shift in perspective will say it's not until they're gone, it's about what we feel about them. If they turn up, how do we feel about it? What's our relationship to it? So they can exist, but if we're feeling okay about the fact that they exist, we've got it. We're in that wonderful, peaceful, contented state, even though they're there, because they're just there. They're a bit of the old world that's intruded on the present. But we're not having a hissy fit over them. We're not disturbing that contentment. It's almost they're there just like the wind in the trees outside. We don't try to stop it from being there. We just adapt to it. So if we don't try and get rid of these things, guess what? They go. But if we try to get rid of them, we're lost. It's like you're getting outside with a fan trying to change the direction of the wind. You're not you're not going to have much luck, are you?
It's like the same thing as like the doubt thing. It's like we're really fine already. It's already okay. It's just a matter of like realizing that, oh yeah, that's
Yes,
just
yes,
doubt.
yes. Beautifully put. Love it. Love it. It's already okay, just a matter of realizing it. Wow, that's I want to quote that one. Thank you, Scott. That I love that. Yeah.
That means it's okay even when you're triggered.
Yep.
I had a
That
recent
can trigger a mind boggle a bit, but it's true. But when you're triggered,
I had a recent go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you're triggered, you're probably not realizing it, that you're okay.
Right. That's true.
And what happens to the trigger when you realize you're okay?
There is none after that.
Yeah.
It just disappears, yeah.
Yep.
Well, actually, the illusion of it is still there though. Like there is some bodily sensation.
That'll change pretty quick when you realize.
Yeah, again, it's there's that bodily sensation is the glue that like, okay, that's the reason that I should feel this way, like we always use it
Yeah.
as an excuse. Like it's like automatic. It's crazy.
Yep. Yep. Well, it's interesting. The bodily sensation validates the thoughts, and the thoughts validate the bodily sensation. So it's a circular revalidation that goes on. And the moment you realize, it's like it just spins off into the atmosphere and it's gone. So think of the word realize, to make real.
Yeah, realize, recognize. Just it's an example of how it becomes a label and then we don't go past it. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
think you're
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. Huh.
Okay. I just thought, well, I'm going to go now. I'm going to go off and have tea with a whole lot of unrealized people. I thought that was hilarious when I thought of that. Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's always fun. Yeah. I'm practicing, not consciously, but it became conscious when I was talking to somebody recently, where I actually hook into not the words, not the meaning of the words that people say, but rather what their intentions are, with what I imagine their intentions are with when they speak, when they're talking to each other. And I can really easily hook into the fact that they're underneath their words are these hooks that come out where they want to connect. They want to touch and connect and share something that they don't even realize some of the time, because they're so involved in the meaning of the words that they just miss that stuff. So I'm kind of practicing to look at that when I interact with all these people that don't think like I do. And they're all good people, big-hearted people, and they really want to be close and share. They want to connect. Yeah. Anyway,
If you have time before you go, could we briefly discuss some things about what you're doing
with
regarding
with
the YouTube channel and the website? And
okay, all right. Well, what if I just stop the recording at this point?